It's a dark night. Dark night.
Hi, Baldy Jack here, and today we're taking a look at the 12th installment in the Friday the 13th franchise, and that is Friday the 13th, 2009.
Friday the 13th released February 13th, 2009. The film would go on to being regarded as a modern take on the series, with fans either praising it or hating it. So without a further ado, let's get started. The film opens with a little homage to the 1980 flick with Pamela Voorhees chasing down the final girl. Of course she gets decapitated, and we end off with her saying, "Kill for mother." We cut to what is supposedly present day with the group of teens who are looking for the good medicine, aka marijuana. They set up camp for the night, with Wade telling a ghost story about the crazed mother who murdered a bunch of counselors over the loss of her son, Jason. The infamous tale that we all know and love. But after all is said and done, they go their separate ways, leaving Wade to wander off into the woods and become a victim of Jason's enormous machete. Mike and Whitney stumble upon the abandoned cabins of Crystal Lake. They search around as Mike finds a locket and says to Whitney that the woman in the picture looks like her and that she should keep it. Meanwhile, Richie goes off to investigate, having thought that Wade was spying on them, doing the good old hit-it-from-behind trick.
Are you off your fucking meds or something?
He soon finds Wade's lifeless corpse up against a tree and rushes back to only get his leg caught in a bear trap. Where have I seen that before? Oh, I see. Either way, Amanda burns to death in her sleeping bag that's hung above the campfire. And I guess you could say that Jason roasted her? Okay, never mind, I make a stupid joke. Cutting back to Mike and Whitney, where they find Pamela's head inside a rotted wall. The door slams shut, with Jason jabbing his machete through the floorboards, wounding Mike several times. Jason then bursts out, pulling Mike under, killing him. Whitney flees in terror, only to discover the aftermath. She tries to help remove the bear trap, but Jason comes a-running and plants his machete right into Richie's forehead. Jason turns his attention to Whitney. As he mid-swings, we cut to black. We open a month and a half later with a group of teens heading out to a house by the lake for a good time. They stop at a gas station to get some snacks and some alcoholic beverages, along meeting our lead male role, Clay Miller, who is looking for his lost sister as she's been missing for several weeks. But the group takes no interest and takes off for the lake house. Clay continues his search, having a run-in with a local cop, a wise senior citizen, and Donnie, the Southern hick kind of character. Clay unknowingly ends up at the house, where Trent acts like a dick about it, and Jenna is nice enough to help Clay search for his sister. Meanwhile, Donnie hears a noise coming from the attic, so he goes up to investigate. He thinks someone's hiding under a sheet, only for it to be a female mannequin, and he has this weird moment with it.
It's okay, Jason. If Michael Myers can get his movie, why can't you, huh?
Jason pops out from hiding, attacking him. Donnie manages to rip Jason's burlap sack off, revealing his deformed face. Jason whips out his machete and slits his throat. As Jason examines his ripped sack, he soon finds the infamous hockey mask. Later that afternoon, Nolan and Chelsea head out to the lake, where Chelsea water skis topless and wipes out. And no, I'm not talking about the game show. Just as Nolan turns the boat around, Jason shoots an arrow, going right through his head. The boat then rams Chelsea, giving her a concussion. Shortly afterwards, she spots Jason standing on shore, with fear setting in. Chelsea tries to elude him, but it's quite obvious where she is. So Jason jabs his machete through the dock, piercing her skull. Cutting back to Clay and Jenna, where they witness Jason carrying a dead body. Jason finds Clay's backpack, getting suspicious. He tries to look for them, knocking down a tower of canoes. He shrugs it off and heads down to his underground lair, where it's revealed that all this time Jason has been holding Whitney hostage, mainly because she kinda looks like his mother. Alrighty then. As they arrive at the house, Clay calls 911 to report a homicide, and tries to warn the others. Meanwhile, Chewie, who is playing around in the tool shed, eventually bumps into Jason. Chewie tries to defend himself with a screwdriver, but Jason forces it into his throat, where he dies. Lawrence goes in to check on Chewie, only to find his body. Jason appears behind him, but he manages to put up a pretty good fight. But as he flees, Jason throws a double-sided axe, or hatchet if you will, striking him right in his back. For a moment, Jason uses Lawrence to lure the others outside. Clearly, this doesn't work, so he finishes him off. Jason secretly enters the house.
Hello there, old chum.
He silently kills Bree, impaling her on a deer antler. The police officer arrives at the door. Jason jumps off the roof and jabs him in the eye with a fire poker, with the eye going right through the door, funny enough. Trent makes his way to a highway and almost nearly gets hit by a truck. But just before Trent can get a ride, Jason appears, goring him with his machete, and impales Trent on the back of the truck.
Total dick.
Jenna and Clay return to the abandoned cabins of Crystal Lake, where they hear Whitney's screams from underground. They find an entrance to Jason's tunnel and discover Whitney. They try to escape, but with Jason hot on their trail, Jenna is killed in the process, receiving a machete through the chest. Clay and Whitney stumble upon Donnie's barn, where Jason comes crashing through a window, grabbing Clay, pretty much to the point where Clay and Jason have a one-on-one situation. For a moment, Whitney distracts Jason with the locket. Clay manages to clamp a bear trap into Jason's shoulder. Clay then wraps one end of the chain around Jason's neck, with the other end going into the wood chipper. Jason begins to get pulled in as Whitney grabs Jason's attention and stabs him in the chest with the machete, where Jason supposedly lies deceased. The next morning, Clay kicks Jason's body into the lake, with Whitney tossing the locket in and the hockey mask ending up at the bottom of the lake. The film closes with one final scare as Jason bursts through the dock, grabbing Whitney. In conclusion, Friday the 13th, 2009 is a unappreciated reboot, taking the first ideal 3 films and chucking them into a blender. No pun intended. Given the movie has a different premise to how Jason lives and what his deadly intentions are, the underground tunnel system doesn't quite feel like a Jason thing, but it's a pretty cool concept nevertheless. As for the acting, it's fairly standable, but there's one minor flaw, and that's the main cast of characters. To me, they don't quite feel or act like teenagers. If anything, they're more like bland college students than anything else. Honestly, the first 20 minutes felt like legitimate teenagers up to no good. The kills this time around are quick cut, and surprisingly, they're mainly machete kills. Not super creative to any degree, besides the sleeping bag kill, and my favorite of the bunch being Chewie's blood-gurgling demise. As for the design of Jason himself, it's wickedly badass. His outfit this time around is drenched in sweat and dirt, sporting a black coat and a white t-shirt. I really dig the worn-looking hockey mask, and the burlap sack is definitely a creepy addition. The presence that Derek Mears presents is well done, playing a clever, meaningful Jason. The film will go on to gross $65 million domestically, making it the second highest box office in the franchise. Overall, if you're looking for a worthy return to Crystal Lake, sit down and watch Friday the 13th, 2009. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and until then, see you all next time.